Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the Qwerty Writing Life podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up.
So you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started.
Hello, welcome to another week of Qwerty Writing Life. Thank you for joining us, and I am joined by my husband, Tony Rancatore, to talk with you guys this week about culinary creativity. So I hope you're excited. I'm excited, and we are going to dive in. Okay, so Tony is a culinary manager at a chain restaurant. So that gives you a little bit of background about why in the world we're even talking about this whole culinary creativity thing. And then let's just talk a little bit about your background.
Okay. My culinary background is, I didn't go to culinary school or anything like that. I just grew up working in restaurants. I started working at a pizza restaurant when I was 15, 16, making pizzas and then delivering, and it just kind of followed me all through my life. It was just kind of that job that I kind of fall back on when I was in school. When I was in graduate school, I worked at a gourmet pizza restaurant and had to sign a confidentiality agreement that I wouldn't give away any of the recipes because it was a big deal in like downtown Louisville, Kentucky. This just having a great pizza. And then when we were in Wake Forest, worked at night at a local sports bar. And not cooking that time, just being a bar back, just cleaning up quarter-filled beer glasses and spilling it all over myself, and really not doing a whole lot in the kitchen. And then after seminary, when I was teaching, just my second job at night to kind of make ends meet was waiting tables, and now I've kind of transitioned into restaurant management, but specifically in the kitchen. So I'm not a chef. I don't call myself a chef. They're those guys that not only went to culinary school, but that are self-taught and they're creating their own menus. And, that's a title that I feel like's for them. But I do run a kitchen. I do run a professional kitchen. And we take our food seriously. So that's kind of my culinary background, is a little bit self-taught and a little bit of learning from a lot of people that I've worked with over the years that have gone to culinary school, that have spent a lot of time working in high-end kitchens and fine dining and mom and pops and some little grease pits here in the South, just with really great food that you may not think had great food. So that's kind of how I learned to cook. And then, of course, growing up in New Orleans, it's kind of in the culture. So it's something that we just always did when I was growing up.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that's another part of the background, I think, for both of us, is just where we grew up and how important food is. Mm-hmm. And also, your family he comes from a Sicilian family. So Sicilian, New Orleans, put those two together, there's food.
We have a family recipe for like everything. So,
and they're not going to write it down for you because it's not written down. It's like, you put a little of this, you put a little of that.
It's like orally passed on from generation to generation and tweaked by every generation. So I don't know what the original recipes are. I just know how we make it now. We've got the red gravy that we make, and meatballs, and my dad's got his own crawfish boil seasoning that he's worked on for the past 5-6 years. That's absolutely perfect, that he probably couldn't tell you how much anything he puts in it, but it comes out the same every time. And I'm trying to learn that.
Yeah, it's amazing too. But yeah, I think that we both kind of come from that Southern background of just really good food. And I know a lot of places around the world talk about how great their food is, and
New
things
Orleans
like
is
that.
better. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, there is that. We definitely use a lot of seasonings, and in the South in general, butter is used quite a bit, I will say, but it's pretty delicious. So, yeah.
We've taken it to a new level in New Orleans where it's almost, I mean, the food and the culture are synonymous. You can't really separate them.
Yeah, that is true. So why this topic of culinary creativity? Maybe you want to touch on that a little bit. Like, why do we even want to talk about this?
Yeah, I mean, y'all's Qwerty Writing Life podcast is about creativity, and it centers around not only writing, but more maybe traditional art, painting, things like that, but mostly writing is Qwerty Writing Life. But there's I think food is a unique avenue for creativity. If you even see it on TV shows and things like that, but I kind of live it with a lot of the men and women that work for me is you do put a little bit of yourself on the plate. I mean, I've been on the line. I mean, I try to spend a couple of days a week at least on the line, just so my skills don't diminish. Even though my job is mostly administrative now, I don't have to do that. I try to. In fact, I was today, just kind of working on some things with some of my guys. You put a little bit of yourself on the plate, and to have that, like if you miss the mark and have it sent back because someone didn't like it, it stings a little, So I think for people that love food, whether you're a trained chef and you went to culinary school, or you're a home chef, or you work in a restaurant, or whatever, if you like cooking, you like food, and you're preparing food for someone, you're putting a little bit of yourself on the plate, and it's like I said, a little bit of a unique way to kind of be creative, not only with maybe the types of foods, but the flavor combinations, things like that. So it's an opportunity for you to kind of get that outlet out. Maybe your job is a high stress job, and coming home and having a glass of wine while you cook a meal for yourself or your family or your friends. It's a great way not only to be creative but relax. So I think that's why I kind of brought it up and thought maybe you should think about doing a podcast with that, because there's a lot of folks out there that, I mean, I'm not a poet. Most of my writing in the past and now is didactic. It's for teaching. It's academic. So for me, when I am creative, it usually is around food. It's what I'm doing in the kitchen, and that's kind of a time for me to relax and just kind of let things that I like to do or kind of part of my personality kind of come out on a plate. So,
yeah. And that is a big thing that when you're cooking, how we talked about earlier with his family and how so many things center around the kitchen and around food. And you mentioned, a lot of people when they come home from work, pour a glass of wine and cook dinner, either just for themselves, their family, their friends. It's something that you can come around with more than just yourself too. It's something that you can engage in with others in a unique way.
Yeah, it's a shared experience. I mean, and we've talked about it a lot. We have a hurried life, and we try to look for those opportunities for our life to be unhurried. And meals, maybe not every meal, but meals are a wonderful way to do that. And I think in our culture, we have a very fast-paced culture where we sometimes almost make an idol out of busyness and how much we accomplish, and it can be very unhealthy. And then we think of food as just kind of putting fuel in the machine so we can go to the next thing. We can get to our next appointment. We can accomplish, the next hurdle. And while there's a place for understanding that, food fuels our body, we need to put healthy things in, and those things are true, it's really healthy to slow down and have the meal become an experience. And experience not just the food, but the people you're sharing the food with. For us, I know that some of our best friends, they come over for a meal, and it's a long night, and it's good food, and talking, and growing and fellowship with friends and family. So it is a shared experience, and it's always great when that shared experience can be a little bit off the beaten path, where it's not just we baked a chicken and made some potatoes and put some bread in the oven. That's fine. That's a great meal, but it's an opportunity to here's something I wanted to try on the grill, and I've done that where it's been good, and I've done that where the backup plan's been pizza, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But it is an opportunity to be creative in a different way, where it's not just stimulating the visually. So some art, it stimulates the heart and the mind, and most art stimulates the heart and the mind. But with creativity in the kitchen, it also fills the tummy and is a shared experience that's tangible for everyone. You don't have to appreciate historical fiction or this certain type of art or poetry to be able to engage in the conversation. Everyone likes a good meal.
That's true. So I guess what are some ways that, some avenues that we can be creative in the kitchen?
Well, it really does, like so many things, come back to reading and learning. Some people just have a knack for it, where they get in the kitchen and they're just great at it. But even those people learn by experience. This didn't work. This did work. Let's do more of that, less of this. We can accelerate that by reading recipes, or there's a ton of YouTube videos. Our daughter is becoming quite the baker, and she watches YouTube videos on baking, and she's learned quite a bit just through that. So there's a ton of resources out there. So one of the avenues to be creative is just to watch people and do it. But if you're new to cooking, just learn the basics. Like, what temperature? Like, you constantly ask me, what temperature do I have to cook chicken again? I get so tired of saying 165 degrees. But learn that. Learn those things first, and then you can kind of build on it. Or if you're a home cook and you've been cooking for years, try something you've never tried before. Whether it's a different type of food or just a different flavor profile. It's amazing how many combinations we get out there for just, you can cook chicken a million different ways, pork chops a million different ways. I mean, pork especially is wonderful at accepting flavors. So that's one way. And then just have fun with it. It's food. It's just have fun with it. If it doesn't work, well, eat a bad meal and then try it again next time. I don't know. I work with some people that they've been cooking for a long time, and I learn new things from them all the time. One of the one of the ways that we've been creative at my restaurant, and I guess I don't know if this falls under the avenue to be creative, because you would have to kind of work in a kitchen to do this, but I work at a chain restaurant, and I was having a conversation today with another one of our culinary managers who did go to culinary school. He just knows a ton of this stuff, like flavor profiles. I mean, everything he makes at home is from scratch. He's really good. So my question was, do you get bored? Do you get bored here because we execute the same recipes, and the food here and our, where we live needs to taste the same as every other restaurant that we have in the company? And his answer was, yeah, it does get a little boring. And there's some dishes that are more chefy than others that we enjoy cooking because it's, you're doing a little bit more with it. But yeah, it does get a little boring. And I've worked with chefs that they've left to go to mom and pop restaurants where they got to create a menu and things like that. So one of the things that we do, a couple things to kind of spice it up a little bit and beat that boredom, is we had a contest one time where it was kind of like Chopped. We had, I think, 35, 40 minutes, and we could use only what was in the restaurant, but we couldn't make anything that was on the menu. We had to make something completely different. It was cool to get creative and do stuff like that. And also, we make things that aren't on our menu for us to eat because, well, we get hungry. We're at work. So you start learning how to develop how flavor profiles are shared in different types of cuisine. So I do not work in a Chinese food restaurant. I do not work in an Asian inspired restaurant, but I love Chinese food. So I've really learned how to take some of the stuff that we have at our restaurant and kind of manipulate that into some very Asian flavor profiles. So a lot of times I'll be eating something in the restaurant, but did you go get Chinese food? Like, no, I made this from all. But you start learning and experimenting how those flavor profiles work. I had one of my cooks was making like some orange shrimp that he had gone to the bar and gotten some of the orange mango bar mix that we use for a orange mango smoothie at the bar. And he's back there with just a syrup, kind of reducing it down and making this, like he mixed it with red pepper flakes. It was fantastic. But I mean, it was almost like a Caribbean inspired like orange shrimp, and it was fantastic. So we do things like that at the restaurant to kind of get creative. But those are those things that just kind of come from learning how flavor profiles work. You could totally do that at your house. Totally do it.
Yeah, for sure. And like when I want to make something that maybe I haven't made before or I haven't made in a while, typically what I end up doing is I'll look up the recipe and I'll find 3 or 4 different variations on the recipe that I'm looking for, and I compare them, and I'm, take this and this and this, and maybe I add my own little thing, and I end up with this Frankenstein kind of recipe, I guess. But that's kind of how I've cooked most of my adult life. And It's fun. It's a lot of fun because you kind of throw in your own little creativity of, a lot of times, especially here, I'm going to add a little bit of spice to this, or.
Yeah, and if you have kids, you have to get creative because you never know what they're going to like from one day to the next. So there's definitely things that our kids don't like as much spice as we do. So, we got to tone that down next time, or either that or heat up some chicken nuggets because they're not going to eat it.
Yeah, that is true. I've been surprised with some of the things that we've tried that our kids have liked. Like tonight I did balsamic chicken, which is something that I just did, and it's the simplest thing ever. I mean,
Super simple.
Yeah, it's basically just chicken, balsamic vinegar, a little bit of salt and pepper. And tonight I added some red pepper, which I had not done before, but our daughter loves this chicken. Now our son doesn't like it so much. So when we do balsamic chicken, he
cooks his own.
Yeah, he does. He seasons his own, and it's a little bit scary how much garlic powder and onion powder.
It's almost like
he
just saw some seasonings that he liked the names of and kind of threw them all on chicken and cooked it. But it actually is pretty good. I mean, it's full of flavor, but he likes it and he has fun with it, and it's kind of his own blend. And like I said, I mean, there's no rhyme or reason, but for the most part, the seasonings work. I'm not sure everything that he put on there I would throw on there, but it works.
All right. So I thought it would just be kind of fun to kind of wrap up with just asking some favorites.
Okay.
So what is your favorite cooking show?
Well, my favorite cooking shows are kind of the competition ones. The traditional cooking shows of how to cook this, they really never go into a lot of detail, and I can look that up and read that. But I really like Beat Bobby Flay. First of all, I like Bobby Flay. I mean, he's not only a great chef, but just got a good personality on TV, and it's I don't know, it's a good show. But what I like about the Beat Bobby Flay show so much is it kind of feels to me it's like. It's kind of how the setup of the show is kind of like how restaurants are when it's closed and everyone's gone, and you're kind of just having some chefs there just cooking for themselves or just seeing who's better, or there's feel of it, like this is what happens when restaurants are closed down. It's kind of like we're pulling back the curtain a little bit. Now, I know the show's more scripted than that, but I've been in restaurants late, and that's how it feels. And things are different at whatever your favorite restaurant is. I promise you, it's very different when all the lights come on and all the guests are gone. It's a really different place. And that's kind of how Beat Bobby Flay feels to me. It's like the restaurant when all the guests are gone and everyone cuts loose a little bit.
That's neat. And we kind of pick up on that a little bit in a show that we both really enjoy, and that's Cajun Aces. Mm-hmm. That's a fun show for us to watch, especially because the Carrolls are local chefs.
Yeah, they're
basically.
not far. Yeah.
I mean, New Roads, Louisiana is not far from here, and they show a lot of that, like the behind the scenes, like them, making up new recipes and stuff like that. And of course, they own their own restaurants, so that's a little bit different. They get to be creative even on their menu as well. But
yeah, that's a cool show too, and they're great chefs. Sam and Cody Carroll they're amazing chefs.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite meal that you like to cook?
I don't know that I have a favorite meal I like to cook. I think I have a favorite method, and I like to experiment on the grill. I know, and not only with the food, but like the cooking method. Now, I'm not like an expert on using the smoker. A lot of people love that. I don't have the time for the smoker. It just takes all day. I don't have the time, and it's a science. It really is. So if you're, a pit master and you are great at smoking meat, and more power to you. I'll come and I'll eat it. That's just not my favorite style of cooking. But I do like I do like the grill. I use not charcoal briquettes anymore. I've kind of, one of the things I've experimented with and really like is I use the wood briquettes now with like a kind of a natural lighter fluid to get them started. Get rid of all the chemical taste. If you're interested in that, you want to find out exactly what I use, you can put like a comment underneath this, and Joy will give that message to me, and I'll get it to you if you want to know exactly what I use. But I promise it takes away all the chemical flavor. In fact, she used to not really want to eat grill food until I started using that. Anyway, not to get off on that, but what I really like is kind of playing around with spice combinations. I buy a lot of stuff off the shelf, and there's some great, grilling seasonings out there that are just these mixes of like, I use a bourbon molasses one that I used yesterday that I bought off the shelf. I had nothing to do with that, and it was really good. But I enjoy kind of making my own, where the ratios are mine, what I put in it's mine. It just feels more chefy. It just kind of feels like you're putting a little more of yourself into it. Once you've cooked for a little while, like, what temperature chicken and pork is done at, the difference between a medium and a medium rare steak. Those things kind of come with time, but what really kind of sets apart, it's one thing to have people over and they're like, oh wow, that was a really nicely cooked medium rare or medium steak. But when you add a new flavor profile to it from the seasonings that maybe they've never experienced before, that's a great way to be creative, and it's fun for people to like, wow, that's really good, I really enjoyed that. Or when you like accidentally figure something out, like the way we cook turkeys in our family now, and it's not a secret recipe, so I'll give it out on YouTube. We accidentally one year, my grandfather actually accidentally one year cooked a turkey upside down, and it was like the juiciest turkey ever. So since then, for like the past 15 years, every year we cook the turkey upside down, and the turkey breast just kind of marinated in all the juices that run down into it. And you don't even really need to inject it or baste it or anything. It's really good. So those are the types of things that I like, I think, most about cooking.
Are there any foods that you have tried that you were surprised that you liked?
Yeah, I get to try a lot of new foods. I work with in a multi-ethnic kitchen, and one of my line cooks is Hispanic, and he will somewhat regularly, maybe once a month or so, he'll show up to work with a cow tongue, and he'll put that thing in a pan and fill it with water and onions and all sorts of stuff, and put kind of put aluminum foil on there, kind of make a makeshift pressure cooker, and we'll throw that thing in the convection oven for a good part of the day, and he'll slice it, he'll chop it up and make cow tongue tacos with, and he makes homemade salsa, like pico de gallo, puts on it, and it's fantastic. I mean, if I didn't tell you it was cow tongue, you would never guess in a million years. It's fantastic. So yeah, I love cow tongue tacos. They're great.
Okay, I'm going to take your word for it. I hear cow tongue, and I just know.
It's so good. It's so good. It really is.
It's funny. Well, all right. Well, is there anything else that you want to say just about culinary creativity before we kind of wrap up with a challenge?
No, just it's if you're if you're listening to this and you're not, like, I'm not the most creative person. I'm not. My mind just doesn't work that way, at least in the traditional avenues of creativity. There's something. Just find something where you can kind of get that creativity out, or that kind of going on for you. It's healthy and it's good and it's fun. And cooking is that for me. It allows me to play around a little bit and even just kind of relax. Whereas, writing for me, if I had to sit down and write poetry, that would be like homework for me. Not that it's not wonderful. It's just not something I'm talented at. I do enjoy reading poetry. I don't always understand it. But so whether it's cooking or something else, there's something where you can kind of be creative and do that. And it's fun. And they're just really wonderful gifts from God to help us enjoy life while we're here a little more. And food's definitely part of that.
I would agree with that for sure. All right, so we are going to send you guys out this week with a Qwerty challenge like we usually do. And so Tony's got a couple of really good challenges for you this week.
Okay, so the first Qwerty challenge would just take maybe one of your favorite recipes, one of those go-tos, and tweak it a little bit. Find, for instance, when we were talking earlier, I use the example of, like, if you grill pork chops or something, apples go great with pork chops. Like, there's a very traditional dish, pork chops and applesauce. Well, maybe instead of applesauce, I'm going to take and I'll chop some fresh, like, Honeycrisp apples and, cook them down in a little bit of butter and brown sugar and put those on there. And instead of applesauce, we'll do that. So just kind of tweak one of your favorites, try something new. And I guess the other one would just be take and try some new flavor profiles. Maybe something you've never tried. Maybe look up a recipe for something you have never tried and just cook it and try it. And, maybe you'll find something new that you like and enjoy. And like, maybe you want to cook some cow tongue tacos, and you're like, wow, they really are that good. So try something new and or reimagine and tweak something old.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We hope that you have had a good time. I know we have. And I hope that this week you find a way to be creative in your kitchen and have a fantastic week. Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think Qwerty writing life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think Qwerty Writing Life rocks ice for real,
oh my word,
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.